Level 1. You wake to the sound of tinkling metal, not coins, gold beating against gold, a sun-sparked canopy above your face. You sit up and for a second you think it's a dream. Silk, saffron smoke, the faint, impossible scent of mined metal. A trader's life, you tell yourself. You know gold when you see it. Then you look beyond your tent flap. Camels stretch in a sea of amber and cream, palanquins inlaid with ivory, men in robes that look like currency. And there, at the center, MANSA MUSA. Not a rumor, not a portrait in a storybook. The man who turns caravans into statecraft. He shifts like a gravity well. When he moves, courtiers realign. When he speaks, emissaries rewrite ledgers. You are with him. You are one of his merchants. You swallow hard. You taste gold. The caravan stretches farther than a market street. Thousands of souls, a kingdom on the move. You are small and suddenly very, very important. Level 2. You step out. A coin rolls free and stops at your sandal. Someone kneels and hands you a polished piece of gold. Not payment, recognition. MANSA MUSA notices you and nods once. Everything shifts, the merchants whisper. Governors recalculate tax receipts on the fly. You walk between heaps of spices and rectangular ingots the size of chests. You see artisans polishing fountains that have no water. You see nobles arranging caravans as if constellation maps. You bargain for a bale of salt and the seller quotes prices like prayers. Gold is not currency here. It is a language. You overhear terms that float above the desert heat, endowments, waqfs, diplomatic gifts. You learn how a man can buy not only a market, but the idea of a market. You begin to understand scale. Thousands of kilos of gold, tents built to mimic palaces, a yearly wealth that bends foreign economies. Where MANSA travels, the world listens. Level 3. The desert becomes a stage. Your footprint is small against the theater of wealth. At dusk, the caravan creates its own skyline. Torches like planets, music like proclamations. You have bargains to make. You are a merchant. This is your element. But every transaction now carries weight. Buy too cheap and you insult power. Buy too bold and you become a spectacle. You trade silk for ivory, spice for political favor. You learn that with MANSA, commerce is diplomacy and charity is strategy. He bestows gold like rain. Cities bloom overnight at his passing. Grains appear where famine was expected. Prices plummet. Markets reorder. You watch governors grow richer simply by hosting passage. You watch scholars and masons get funded to build libraries and mosques. The scale is dizzying. You feel like a cog in a gilded machine. Level 4. Then it happens. Heat like a decision. Days with no wells answering. Camels slow. Crops wither in the desert mirage. A caravan of this size drinks more than kingdoms. The problem snaps the air. You can taste panic. Water is the one currency even gold bows to. Heads convene under a canopy of dust. MANSA MUSA studies the sky as if it were a ledger. You offer to find an oasis. He smiles with the courtesy of a man who owns rivers. His answer is not a bargain. Level 5. What follows is not a compromise. It is an expenditure. MANSA calls envoys to the coast. He summons masons from Andalusia and engineers from Cairo. Merchants with ships are paid sums that would buy whole towns. Every caravansary within 2 weeks' radius is emptied and repurposed. Men are paid triple, quadruple wages. Artisans are promised lifelong pensions. You watch contracts signed in the sand, ink of gold leaf. He hires glassblowers to craft thousands of amphorae, not clay, crystal and blown glass, sealed with gold thread. He buys outright every available vessel of the Nile fleet. He buys the rights to springs 3 cities over. He purchases the labor of wells, digs, linings, pumps, funded in coins so vast the suppliers weep with relief. He pays to have craftsmen carve cisterns, marble-lined, waterproof, with resins paid for in silk. Condensers are erected, sheets of polished metal set to pull mist into drink. It is a solution that costs more than most wars, more ostentatious than necessity demands. But when you travel with the richest man in history, necessity wears jewelry. Level 6. You watch gold turn into water. The procession back is a spectacle. Crystal amphorae shine like captured moons. Camel bell chimes mimic a rainfall. Artisans hand over wells with signatures like royal seals. Engineers stand proud beside pumps they built overnight. The caravan's procession is slower now, careful. Every jar is a treasure and a lifeline. When the caravans arrive at the thirsty point, they open the first amphora. A hush. You see men, hardened by dunes, weep at the sight of common water. You taste it. It is water and it is spectacle. Salt-free, cool where the sun has scorched. You realize the expense was not only about quenching, it was a display of power. To turn scarcity into abundance on a whim. To teach the desert to bow. Level 7. After the water, the caravans move like a patient wave. News of the rescue ripples ahead. Markets that had crumbled stabilize. Governors who had pondered rebellion reconsider. The scale of wealth has become a currency of peace. You stand among the tents and count less of goods, more of influence. You count the lives saved and the contracts signed in the shadow of that extravagance. MANSA MUSA names a waqf on the spot, a perpetual fountain for nomads. Your ledger looks different now. Your trade is wealth, and your wealth is power. You learn the most expensive fix is not the stupidest. It is the one that creates dependency. It is the one that inks your patron's name onto the map of survival. You think of the men who labored with bright eyes because they were paid more than they ever hoped. You think of the cities that will translate his spending into loyalty. You think of your own hands as instruments of exchange. Finale night finds you on a dune. The caravan around you breathes like a sleeping city. Lanterns blink like distant fires. You hold a small piece of gold. You count its weight. It is heavy enough to remind you of everything. You remember the amphorae cracked open like promises. You remember the price paid that will echo for decades. This is how kingdoms become legends. By spending fortunes as if they were thoughts. By making life itself something you can distribute. You close your eyes. You imagine returning to your own market town with stories. Not just of fortunes, but of the calculus behind them. Gold can buy water. Gold can buy allegiance. Gold can rewrite maps. You exhale. The desert is quiet but changed. You are a merchant who has seen wealth as force. You stand and walk toward the fire where Mansa sits. He hands you a coin, this time a real gift. You feel its history. You feel the responsibility. You know now that wealth at that scale is never neutral. It shapes people, politics, and the path of rivers. You tuck the coin away. You will write it into your accounts. But you will never forget the day gold produced water and kingdoms drank. Your caravan moves on, and so does the world.